And when you start coming down, it's for every high, the low is double it. So it's extremely low to come down off of this drug, and you're going to feel anxious, you're going to feel depressed and paranoid, so you want to use again. So this cycle continues, and we have documented cases where people are high on crystal meth for 3 to 15 to 20 days. So you can only imagine what develops in the brain with what it does is the brain, your dopamine and serotonin levels are what tells it's the feel-good part of your brain. And without dopamine and serotonin at a proper level, you're going to exhibit behavior, again, like I was saying, where you don't need to eat, sleep, or drink. So for a meth user, it works well, but it also works against them. Because once you come down off this drug, you're extremely paranoid, you're extremely depressed, even during the time while we call tweaking, and where your brain just says, you know what, I can't take enough here, it's just too much, and you're starting to come down. And they become extremely paranoid. The violent incidences that we see in the communities where people drive cars at dangerous speeds and people jumping off bridges and whatnot, that's all because their brain is not functioning at a level where it should be. And again, it's because of how the impact of this drug has on their brain.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. So, and the long-term effects for people who have been using for a while, what is that like?
The drug is fairly new even to the medical and the treatment side of society. When you look at crystal meth, because it impacts a person's mental state, and that's the psychoses, how you think. And we have psych wards all across British Columbia that 60 to 70, sometimes 80% of their patients, their inpatients, are meth addicts. And they may not be currently using, but they're trying to quit, and the psychoses that they are exhibiting is very much like schizophrenia. If you go into a psych ward and exhibiting depression and anxiousness and all these things which will allow a person to basically not be able to function in society, the doctors will tell you, you need to stay off this drug for almost a full year before we can differentiate between schizophrenia and drug-induced psychoses. So that's how powerful crystal meth has on the brain, is that the symptoms of post-use and even during use are very similar to schizophrenia. Now, schizophrenic is someone who, they're paranoid, they're delusional, they're depressed, and they just can't function normally in society. So the biggest fear and the biggest threat, I think, with crystal meth is the huge loss of potential that individuals are basically self-indulging in and taking upon themselves. You get a 16, 17, 18-year-old who's using crystal meth for a couple of years, just think of the huge loss of potential that they have for their own education, for relationships, for future jobs. I think that in years to come, we're going to have countless young men and women who are going to be reliant on antidepressants, the social system to keep them even alive in their hometown or wherever they may be. And we don't know how long. Sometimes people bounce back. Within years of not using, some of that, the brain can restore itself, but we really don't know. And but right now, we certainly know that the psych wards are treating many young adults for crystal meth use.
It's frightening.
It is.
For 4 years I used and fooled myself into thinking that I was in control the entire time. And I slowly distanced myself from friends, from anyone who cared about me, from my family, and really sank into this dark world of, I was surrounded by crime. Quite often people would steal from me and then come and say, here, you want to buy this? I'm like, that's mine, thank you. But it was really quite a lonely world. And, I used to be quite a social person, and I ended up preferring a dark room with, closed windows and closed blinds and sitting in a haze of smoke. It was quite disturbing.
I feel that having awareness is a vital thing in our community. Without having people involved and being aware of what's actually going on, I don't think kids would be able to be helped in the way that they have been. I really feel that we need to have more funding available for people that are trying to get into detox, trying to get into rehabilitation. It takes a really long time, and I know that from a personal experience. And it's a really draining experience on your family, and to be able to wait all the time and never have an answer whether or not your child is going to be able to get into rehabilitation is, I think, one of the hardest things a parent or a friend can go through. And if people just started to realize it's not just lower income peoples and kids from bad homes, I think people might be a little bit more open to understanding and wanting to help people and not thinking, oh, it's not part of my life, because it is part of everyone's life.
There's a young group of volunteers at the Salvation Army, and two young girls were quite interested in the Meth task force and asked if they could become involved. We thought, great, this is a super way to get youth involved. Let's form a youth group as well. So the girls formed their own little group, and then Cindy Silver came on board to run the community chair, which was great because we didn't have anybody for community. We have John D, who came in to do the treatment end of things, myself for the law enforcement, and then Peter DeFore, who is the overall chair.
I think there's a role for police to advise the kids, but I believe that sometimes the kids don't listen to adults. And what the other aspect policing can do is can have victims who are already on crystal meth, who have recently given it up, to get involved and talk to other kids about it. I'm finding that when a youth has given it up, then they realize how bad it is, and they're more than willing to give some time and effort into talking to other kids about the situation. And they're the contacts that our police officers have on a daily basis.
I think first off what they need to do is educate themselves, and we have the means in order to educate them. We have a fantastic group of people that can do that. We just need people to make the time to listen to them, to hear them out, and then they'll be able to hopefully make the same decisions we already have and realizations. Which is we need an entire community basically to go to work on putting together treatment centers. We need detox centers right here in North Vancouver. And we need to admit to the fact to ourselves that there is a problem here on the North Shore. This isn't somebody else's problem.
Today I'm with Shahram. Shahram is a young man who came from Iran about 20 years ago. He came to Western world so he can find future, so he can experience something new and different. He kept himself clean for a long time. He worked very hard. He bought a house. He had a nice BMW. He built a nice life. He's a skilled worker, well educated, from a great family, and everything was going very well for him. Unfortunately, a few years ago, maybe less than 3 or 4 years ago, he was introduced to drug. And from that point, his life is changed. I asked him to join us, and he was kind enough to accept my invitation. And we're going to ask him a few questions in regard to the problem that he's facing and the struggle that he has ahead of him. Shahram Jan, you're very welcome to our program.
Thanks.
Okay. I'd like to ask you, when did you leave Iran?
It's around 1985.
So why did you come to Canada?
Oh, they said this is a great country, like neutral, you know what I mean? It's multicultural and, you know, like Geneva, like people from different background, culture and religion, they can live peacefully and, you know, it's not like other country. There are lots of racism and other things going on, you know.
So what happened then? When did you start getting hooked yourself? When did you feel like you got hooked on it?
You know, after September 11, when you know, for political reason, they forced me that I lost my job. You know what I mean? I was in big depression, very lonely and depression, and I didn't care about anything else. Because overnight, everything changed. I was like a outsider, like I'm not existing no more. Like I'm not belonging in this country, or I'm like kind of an enemy, you know, to the people. So I was working for them 10 years, which is I was number one man, you know what I mean? And I couldn't figure out why is that.
When, say, you take drugs, what kind of feeling, how does it work on brain?
For myself, if I do the heroin, you know, if you get, because these days people don't want to make money, There are lots of chemical and junk in that.
Yeah.
Affect differently, get a headache, this and that. But if you, when you do dragons, we call dragon when you're smoking it, well, basically relax, you know what I mean? Totally relax, and you know, the pain is gone.
But you said once, you said it opens the mind and you become...
That's a crack,
Yeah.
and crystal meth and other things.
Okay, what kind of effect does it have?
I noticed a crack, they add different chemicals. Some of them speed on it, some of them crystal meth, some of them different combination of chemical and react differently. That's why I was going to the Hastings Street, all those alley, collect different ones.
Yeah.
They taste different, it smells different, react different. Some of them taste like a diesel, and when it burns, it's kind of the oil, black oil. Some of them taste like a fish when you smoke it. But at the same time, they add to a different chemical. Mm-hmm. And I noticed people, some of the people, most of them I can say, they are experimental. There is a group, I wasn't sure till recently I find out, there's a group behind of this, study the situation, how it works. When you do crystal meth and crack, I noticed it used to be good. It used to be, I never had problem with it. Till this point, everything's opposite now. It's painful, it's kind of a stress, it's kind of like everything close to you, you know what I mean? It's going to different stage, like between this world and other, after you die, different world, spirituality, soul and ghosts and other things. And there is something behind of it. They don't let you to know what's real, what's not, you know what I mean? I'm 100% sure it's kind of involved with government, definitely, and some secret service, whatever it is for
you think
government.
they're doing experiment with these drugs?
Definitely, 100%.
Okay, now.
I can prove it, demonstrate it too. And when you do that, you be more concentrated.
Yeah.
Myself, I'm very cautious about that drugs. I'm scared of it every time when I'm doing it.
So what happens when you feel you go into that world of ghost and spirit and that? What is the experience?
The experience, I notice you see better. You know, when like in your eyes you can see the shadows. Sometimes the ghosts, like a kind of
like a ghost.
Kind of voices and stuff. Like you can concentrate more. If I do it, for example, my girlfriend, if she's somewhere else, I can have communication with her, with a thought.
So you
like
do telepathy?
Telepathy as well. We can, spiritually can travel. Somehow, it's very difficult to explain it, but at the same time, that's the reason I'm doing it.
So you get that kind of stage, that kind of feeling?
You go to different stages. I notice, like right now we're sitting here, we're not alone here. Some other things, at the same time you're watching us, it's kind of 100% sure. And notice when I do that, people's behavior, whoever involved with it changes. You get to that mental stage. And you got to be a bit careful, you know, with these drugs, because if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to go end up mental.
I know for a lot of people that I've been involved with, friends-wise or whatnot, just to see their physical appearance and their physical passion and just everything about them deteriorate into something that is not them at all is a kind of a sad thing, with their skin getting really, really scabby, or their teeth going bad, or their eyes really sketchy and just lost. I think that's probably one of the hardest things to look at as well, is to really see that your friends and people that you thought were just amazing people lose every passion and every lifeness about them just disappear.
As a result of getting all, like throughout our campaign, we've heard from numerous parents saying, you know, if only I would have known, if only I would have known. So the Meth Task Force has taken upon itself to get drug-proofing your kids. So we had a group of our youth, as well as a group of ex-addicts or recovering addicts, take the course to be trainers on how to drug-proof your kids. And in the near future, we're hoping to set up some seminars so that parents can come out, take these courses, and show, you know, what signs to look for, because so many parents will say to us, if only I would have known. I didn't realize that. You know, I myself, with Amber, she's educated me a lot. Like, she showed me what a tech kit was. I'd never seen a tech kit. I mean, everybody makes this assumption that we all know. Well, I've been a police officer for 25 years, and like I said, I hadn't worked with drug sections ever, so my exposure to drugs has been extremely limited other than through when I'm dealing with the young girls that are victims, but it was really interesting to see from her, and I'm thinking, oh geez, now I'll know next time to look for this. So I think the drug proofing your kids is another great thing that we as a task force have done.